Hi, I'm John Hope. I'm one of the senior sales engineers here at Sophos. Today I want to talk to you about a question that I frequently get from customers, and that is, why Sophos? Or specifically, why should I take all of my IT security from Sophos? Let's consider a typical customer network. It'll be protected by some form of firewall. We may have some servers which are publicly available in a DMZ. We may be offering visitors some form of guest Wi-Fi, but the bulk of the organization will be made up of a number of endpoint computers and potentially a number of servers. Now, let's have a look at the protection we can offer in an environment like this. And we're going to start with our endpoint technology. Amongst other things, the endpoint is able to offer scanning for malware signatures of malware that we already know about. And then in addition, we have our next generation InterceptX product that has a fantastic story around protection against ransomware, can offer protection for newly packaged malware strains using exploit prevention, and through our machine learning technology, we can detect and block new and unique pieces of malware. Thanks to some recent product innovations, the same story is broadly true of our server platform as well. So let's move away from the endpoint and let's have a look at the XG firewall in a little bit more depth. Because that is placed at the edge of the network, it's a great place for us to stop threats. And we do that through a combination of different technologies. First of all, we have our world-class IPS engine. And we also offer virus scanning at this point, using not just one, but actually two different AV engines. The XG firewall, because it's positioned at the edge of the network, is also a great place for us to inspect, monitor, and control users' web browsing activity. It's also a great opportunity to inspect customers' emails. It's a great place to control customers' wireless networks. And if it's an illustration like this, where we have public-facing servers, the XG firewall can also act as a web application firewall. And then finally, the XG firewall is also an inspection point that we can use to leverage our Sandstorm technology. So if the XG firewall stumbles across a new and unique file, that can be selectively sent off to our cloud-based sandboxing environment, and we can assess the behavior of that file before determining whether that file should be delivered to its intended recipient or not. Now, if you take both of these technologies from a single vendor, it offers either you as our reseller partners or your customers the opportunity to manage all of this estate from a single console, which is Sophos Central. But having both of these technologies from Sophos also allows these security technologies to collaborate more effectively through a medium that we call Synchronized Security. Now let's go back to our network diagram and let's have a look at some of the unique things that we can do with Synchronized Security. First of all, every time one of these computers sends information out to the internet, the XG firewall will constantly try and cross-reference that against applications that it already has on record. If it can't find a match, the firewall can automatically go back to the endpoint and query it for more information. And using that mechanism, we can detect, classify, report, and more importantly, control on newly discovered applications. But Synchronized Security is primarily around protection. As soon as you deploy a Sophos endpoint or InterceptX, it will immediately start generating a security heartbeat. And that security heartbeat is constantly telling the rest of the system the health of this particular endpoint. In this case, the heartbeat is green, and that means that should this device wish to talk to the internet or talk to other servers internally, that is absolutely fine because we know through the security heartbeat that this device is perfectly healthy. If, however, that device were to become compromised in some way, the security heartbeat would change to red. That's indicating to the rest of the system that this device has some kind of problem. And we can change our security stance towards this device. So if that device tries to transact with the internet, for example, we can build a policy in place to prevent that transaction from happening, thereby preventing the cyber criminals further controlling that device. In addition, because that device is potentially compromised, we could also prevent it from talking to other servers internally to make sure that malware doesn't spread. And then finally, thanks to a recent innovation in XG 17.5, which is lateral movement protection, we can prevent this potentially compromised machine from communicating to other devices on the network, again, to prevent that malware from propagating around the network. And that can happen even if that transaction doesn't go anywhere near the firewall. If you want to learn more about lateral movement protection, Anthony Merry has a great presentation that will take you through the concepts of lateral movement in more depth. So there are two basic illustrations of how synchronized security can benefit our mutual customers. But in summary, taking synchronized security will give you, first of all, enhanced security, and give you a platform which is easier to manage. So hopefully you found that a useful illustration of why it's advantageous to take all of your security from Sophos. Thanks for watching.